Bihari. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Kavirajakacarya Ashtotra Sheta His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Kavirajakacarya Ashtotra Sheta Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Gaur Premanande, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. No, it was off for some time. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, canto number 3, chapter 29, verse number 45. Saha ananto anta-karaḥ kālo nādir ādi-kṛt avyayaḥ janam janena janayan mārayan mṛtyunāntakam. Actually it is mṛtyunā and antakam, mṛtyunāntakam. Okay, so the first word actually is a combination of almost 4 words together. So it is saha ananto anta-karaḥ. So it becomes so ananto anta-karaḥ. Right? And then the other word is kālo nādir. But if you combine it, you see apostrophes. But if you want to break it up into 2 different lines, then it becomes kālo and anādir. But we're going to break the lines. So we're going to repeat, we're going to chant the second line as anādir. So ananto anta-karaḥ kālo anādir ādi-kṛt avyayaḥ janam janena janayan mārayan mṛtyunāntakam. So ananto anta-karaḥ kālo anādir ādi-kṛt avyayaḥ janam janena janayan mārayan mṛtyunāntakam. Anādir ādi-kṛt avyayaḥ janena janayan mṛtyunāntakam. So nanto nta-karaḥ kālo anādir ādi-kṛt avyayaḥ janam janena janayan mārayan mṛtyunāntakam. So ananto anta-karaḥ kālo anādir ādi-kṛt avyayaḥ janam janena janayan So ananto anta-karaḥ kālo anādir ādi-kṛt avyayaḥ janam janena janayan anta-karaḥ kālo, anādir ādi-kṛt, Mataji. Saha, that. Anantaḥ, endless. anta-karaḥ, destroyer. kālaḥ, time. anādiḥ, without beginning. ādi-kṛt, the creator. avyayaḥ, not liable to change. janam, persons. janena, by persons. janayan, creating. mārayan, destroying. mṛtyunā, by death. antakam, the Lord of death. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: the eternal time factor has no beginning and no end. It is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maker of the criminal world. It brings about the end of the phenomenal world. It carries on the work of creation by bringing one individual into existence from another, and likewise it dissolves the universe by destroying even the Lord of Death, Yamarāja. Purport: by the influence of eternal time, which is a representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Father begets a Son, and the Father dies by the influence of cruel death. By the time's influence, even the Lord of cruel death is killed. In other words, all the demigods within the material world are temporary, like ourselves. Our lives last for 100 years at the most, and similarly, although their lives may last for millions and billions of years, the demigods are not eternal. No one can live within this material world eternally. The phenomenal world is created, maintained, and destroyed by the finger signal of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a devotee does not desire anything in this material world. A devotee desires only to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This servitude exists eternally. The Lord exists eternally, His servitor exists eternally, and the service exists eternally. The sense of purport. Om ajñānati mirandasya jnānāñjana shalakaya chakshur unmetam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the last verse for this chapter, chapter number 29, and from tomorrow we'll be going to a new chapter, chapter number 30. So we all know the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Janmadiyasya yato anvayad itarataschaarteshva abhijñā swarat tene brahma hridaya ādi-kṛvaye muhyanti yat surayah tejo vari mridam yata vinimaya yatra sargo mrsha damna svena sada nirastakuhukam satyam param dhimahi. So this is the opening verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the first line basically it is telling that I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described in various ways. And in the first line, the two important words is abhijñā and swarat. What is abhijñā? Abhijñā means he is cognizant, all cognizant. He knows everything. That is what abhijñā means. And swarat. What is swarat? Swarat means independent. So the Lord is independent and the Lord is fully cognizant. Those are the two qualities. I mean, some of the qualities of the Lord, abhijñā and swarat. So swarat, basically swarat means he is independent. Because, and what does independence means? If I say that I'm independent, what does it mean? Yeah, correct. So you're not depending on anybody else, or when you're making a decision, your decision is not influenced by anybody else. Like you're making your own decisions. So that is why it is said that basically means that there is no cause, there is no external cause which is impelling you to make a decision. You are independent, right? So that is why it is said he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. Because this is tied together. The cause and independence are tied together. Because there is no cause beyond him, so he is independent. It's the other way around. So both ways. So in a similar way, we need to understand this independence. What does it mean? And especially cause of all things. There is a similar translation we can find in the first verse of Vedanta Sutra also, which begins by saying, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. This Brahma is having three qualities, Satyam, Jnanam and Anantam. Over there also, Baladev Vidyabhushan uses the same word. He says, Krishna is cause of all things. Right? So, and here also if you see, in our current verse, the time is described as ādi-kṛt. Right? If you remember, if you just go back to the today's verse, ādi-kṛt, the creator, the second line, anādir, ādi-kṛt, avyayaḥ. So here the same quality is also ascribed to the time. The time is something which is the creator. Because the time creates things, right? Because that's the example given in the translation. Just like the father begets a son and the father dies, it's all because of the time factor, right? So the time is the impelling factor. It looks like the time is creating things and time is destroying things. So that is why the same word is used here while describing time as ādi-kṛt, the creator. And in the commentary to the first verse of the Vedanta Sutra, Baladev Vidyabhushan, he describes what is time, and that lays the foundational definition, the Gaudiya definition of what is time according to our understanding. So there he says, time is like a wheel measured in short moments, cause of our ability to perceive past, present and future. It gives rise to creation and destruction. It is an unconscious eternal substance, the impersonal energy of the Lord. So this is how Baladev Vidyabhushan describes what is time. As you can see, time is like a wheel. What do you mean wheel? Basically wheel, just like you have a clock, you have like minutes, seconds, hours, like that. So it's circular. So that is what it means, time is like a wheel. I mean, if you've been to Odisha, there's a temple, sun god temple, Konark temple. So there's a wheel on the side of the temple. If you put your finger over there, and by the way you see the shadow, you can predict the time of the day. So it's like time is like a wheel measured in short moments, and it's a cause of our ability to perceive past, present and future. So what it means is that, like, let's say you want to describe anything, like this paper or this table or anything. How do you describe it? You say it's big, small. You give a dimension. It's length, width, height. It's close to me, far to me. Right? So that's how you describe things. But how you describe things which has not happened or which happened in the past, that is through time. What happened is past. What is going to happen is future. That's how the time helps us to describe events. That's what it means. It is the cause of our ability to perceive past, present and future. And it gives rise to creation and destruction because of the influence of time. And it is an unconscious eternal substance. What do you mean unconscious? What do you mean time is unconscious? So, yeah, exactly. It's not a person. Just like, you have if you go to India, there's a bullock cart. You see, bullock cart, it has wheels, right? So the wheels, they keep turning. It's as if the wheels are pushing the cart, right? But the cart is going in some direction, but the wheels doesn't know which direction it is going. It just keeps pushing. It doesn't know, it doesn't care, right? That's how the time is. The time may not know exactly what it is doing, but it just keeps moving. That's how the events are happening. So that is why it's called unconscious. An eternal substance. Eternal. It never ends. It's always there. That's eternal. And what do you mean substance? What do you mean substance? Substance is something you can touch, right? I mean, what do you mean substance? Time is a substance. So what it means is that those who are into quantum mechanics, in the theoretical physics, there are two things. There is quantum mechanics and general relativity. They're all science, but they still have difference of opinions on how they understand time. In the quantum mechanics, time is a substance. In the space, the time even bends. Like if you study the space theory, the time has relative, and also time bends near the black holes. So time is a substance. But the other part of science, which studies general relativity, they don't say time is a substance, it's just a relative term. So, but the way we define time, eternal substance, means it is actually close to the definition of the quantum mechanics. That's what it means, eternal substance. The impersonal energy of the Lord. So this is a definition of time given in Vedanta Sutra by Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan. And also we can also find a similar definition of time by Maitreya in the previous chapter, 3:30 and 11. The time is eternal, unchangeable, limitless, an instrument of the Supreme Lord for his pastimes, a source of interactions of the three modes of nature. See, if you see at the beginning of creation, what was at the beginning of creation? It was just pradhana, right? This three modes of nature in the equilibrium. Now how did creation happen? The creation happened when these three modes of nature, equilibrium is disturbed. And how is the equilibrium disturbed? It is by three factors. That is also given in the previous chapter, 3:20-12. Daivena durikrityena parena animishena cha. There are three things. What is the first thing? Unseen activity of living entity or karma. And what's the second thing? The Mahavishnu. And the third thing is the force of time. So these are the three things, or the three causes of creation, which is given in the previous chapter. Over here, it is given Daivena. What is Daivena? Daivena basically means unseen activity of the living entity or karma. And Parena. Parena is Mahavishnu. Animishena. What is Animishena? Animishena means by the force of time. So here we can see the time is also described as one of the cause of creation. So that is why previously, when it is said ādi-kṛt, the creator, it has a meaning, because the time is also one of the creator, one of the three creators along with Mahavishnu. So, so here we can also see the time being the cause. The further verses of the Vedanta Sutra describes how is time the cause. Because see, on one hand we are saying the Lord is the cause, and the other verse is telling time is the cause. So how do we understand this? Is the Lord is the cause or the time is the cause, right? So that is explained in the further verses. Basically, where it says that, see, even though Lord is the cause of all causes, right? But the time is also a cause, but the Lord is cause of all the causes. So it's like a primary cause and a secondary cause. So the primary cause is actually the Lord, the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is why he said, nādir ādi. I mean, basically is a cause of all causes. But the time is also secondary cause, like a gauna, mukhya and gauna karana. So in that way, time is also a cause. That is why it is justified here. And now, what is the purpose of time? What does time does? Ayur haranti vaipumsan. The purpose of time is just to destroy. That is what is explained in the second canto. Ayur haranti vaipumsan. What happens when the time passes? As the time passes, it basically reduces the lifespan of all the living entities. It causes destruction. There is a creation, but ultimately everything is destroyed by the influence of time. And what are the other effects of time? One of the most important effect of time is it causes fear, bhayam. Right? In the previous verses, we have described about the fear, how the demigods are fearful and they are doing their duties. And prior to that, it's also given the example of a person who has binna darshinaha, differential mentality, how he is also fearful, how the Lord causes fear to him. So this is one of the effects of time, to cause fear, because the time is destroying things, right? So it obviously causes fear. And this fear is tied to avidya, ignorance. If you remember, when Brahma started creation, what was the first thing Brahma created? Do you remember? What was the first thing Brahma created in this world? No. Brahma did not create Pradhana. Pradhana was already there. Brahma did not create Pradhana. No. They're all there. 24 elements are always there. Brahma did not create 24 elements. Yeah. Now, Brahma created 5 types of ignorance. Yeah, that was in the previous chapter. Right? If you remember, Sasarja Chayaya Avidyam Pancha Parvana Agrataha. That is how Brahma started creation, by creating 5 types of ignorance. See, if there is no ignorance, right, then everybody is liberated soul, right? There is no need of material creation. So there has to be ignorance. So that's why Brahma first creates ignorance. And that is given in the 3:20:18. Brahma first created 5 types of ignorance in his shadow. What are they? Tamisra, Andha-tamisra, Tamas, Moha and Mahamoha. So these 5 types of ignorance can be corresponded to Yoga Sutra's Panchakleshas, the 5 types of obstacles for a yogi. What are they? Avidya, Ashmita, Raga, Dvesha and Abhinivesha. These are same things. They just use different words, but they're basically the same things. What is avidya or tamas? Tamas means no knowledge. What it means is that the tendency to consider unreality as reality. What is moha? Moha means illusion. What is mahamoha? Mahamoha is coming from moha. Basically, once you're illusion, a person is developing intense desire for material enjoyment. And from that intense desire, when he does not get that object, then he becomes angry. Right? Or hatred. Raga, dvesha, love and hatred. And from that, ultimately, the last thing which is manifested is the fear. Andha-tamisra or abhinivesh. The fear of death. So, the fear is ultimately connected to avidya or the ignorance. And this ignorance is created by Lord Brahma himself at the beginning of creation. And we can see the famous verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes bhayam. Bhayam dvitiya abhinivesha syat from the 11th canto, right? So you can see the word abhinivesh. And you can see the Yoga Sutra word also, abhinivesh. Even though the word used is Andha-tamisra by Lord Brahma, but again in the 11th canto, the word used is from the Yoga Sutras, which is abhinivesh. Bhayam dvitiya abhinivesha syat. The fear is caused by the identification of the material body, that I am this body. That the minute we identify ourselves with this body, that is a cause of fear. And what is the ultimate cause of fear? It is tied to time. The effect of time is fear, and the fear is caused by avidya. It's because the time is causing destruction of everything, right? So there is cause of fear. And this fear can be of 2 types. There is a material fear and there is a spiritual fear. What is material fear? As we studied, it is caused from abhinivesh, from the avidya. And there is also a spiritual fear. What is a spiritual fear? Does anyone have any reference to spiritual fear? Have you studied spiritual fear anywhere? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the secondary rasas. It is given in Nectar of Devotion by Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhus by Srila Rupa Goswami. Because, see, ultimately what we see in this material world exists in the spiritual world also. That's what Bhagavad Gita says, right? Urdhva Moolam Adha Shaka. Whatever you see is a reflection of the spiritual world. So unless there is fear in the spiritual world, there wouldn't be fear in the material world also. But of course, the fear in the spiritual world is much different from the fear in the material world. But the fear is there. But the purpose is different. And coming to the material fear, even though material fear, sometimes fear is kind of portrayed as something negative feeling or something negative you want to avoid, but not necessarily. Because sometimes fear is required or fear is healthy, right? For example, especially if the fear is leading us to surrender to Krishna, definitely, that fear is good, right? Why not? And Krishna also says there are 4 types of people who surrender to him, right? Chaturvida bhajante mam. And why are they surrendering? The surrender is also due to some fear. But that fear is good. Like, for example, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 78th chapter, 25 verse, it describes the daily activities of Lord Krishna. Over there, there was a messenger who comes to the court of Krishna, and he appeals to Krishna on behalf of the kings, thousands of kings who were captured by Jarasandha. And they appeal to Krishna to release them. And that is where the messenger says these things. O Krishna, Krishna, O immeasurable soul, destroyer of fear for those surrendered to you, despite our separatist attitude. Again, you see, Bhinna Darshinaha, it all ties together every time. So it's this way the message is always consistent. Bhagavatam, which canto ever you read, the message is always consistent. Despite our separatist attitude, we have come to you for the shelter out of fear. You see, you want to get rid of fear, but this fear is good because it is allowing you to surrender to Krishna, right? We see, like sometimes we see people, they're not fearful, but when they get old, when they get disease, then they become fearful and they surrender to Krishna. That is good, at least now you are surrendered to Krishna. Your whole life you are enjoying, but at least now you are becoming fearful. So in this way, that fear which surrenders to Krishna, that is good. That is a healthy fear. But of course, that fear which comes from us committing some illegal or illicit activities, that fear is unhealthy fear which should be avoided. So in this way, the material fear is good as long as one is using that fear to surrender to Krishna. And if you remember, even for the devotees also, it is good, because I think I remember one pastime, Prabhupada was telling that one of the problem with my Western disciples is that they're not afraid of Maya, Yeah, you should be afraid, some fear is required, because that will make us serious on the path of Krishna consciousness. And now coming to the spiritual fear, so the spiritual fear, it again, this is a completely, entirely different from the material fear. And as we all know, there are five primary rasas. What are the 5 primary rasas? Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. These are the 5 primary rasas. And there are also secondary rasas. How many secondary rasas are there? There are 7, exactly. There are 7 secondary rasas and 5 primary rasas. And one of the secondary rasa is bhaya. So these secondary rasas basically nourishes the 5 primary rasas. Just like when Mother Yashoda, when the demons are attacking Krishna, Mother Yashoda is scared of the child, right? I mean, is worried about the child. So even though the primary rasa of Mother Yashoda, what is the primary rasa of Mother Yashoda? It's Vatsalya rasa. But sometimes the secondary rasa also comes, like a bhaya, that nourishes her relationship with Krishna. So that is good. It nourishes the primary relationship with Krishna. So in that way, there is a spiritual fear as well. And of course, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions in the Bhakti Sandarbha that there are demons even in the spiritual world. In the Golak also there are demons. But those demons are it is mentioned here, in the Aprakat Leela, the demons are not conscious entity, but are mechanical replicas of their forms. So these are basically meant for the Krishna's pastimes. They're not like actual demons what we see in the material world, but those are demons especially meant for the pastimes of Krishna, right? So that is why if you go back to the definition of given by Maitreya for the time, you see, time is eternal, unchangeable, limitless, and an instrument of the Lord's Supreme Lord for his pastimes. So the Lord's pastimes, the time is there, and the time, one of the effects of time is fear, and in the spiritual fear it's a secondary rasa. And also we can see that we can also see the fear especially in the one more realm, in the Aishwarya Bhav. There is Aishwarya Bhav and there is Madhurya Bhav, right? In the Aishwarya Bhav, the devotee is related to the Lord with awe and reverence, just like Lakshmi Devi, right? So they're all worshipping the Supreme Lord, but there is in the Aishwarya Bhav. In the Aishwarya Bhav also, there is respect. And when there is respect, automatically there is some fear, right? I mean, it goes together. Of course, that's not a bad fear, it's a good fear. So just like when the wife serves the husband, wife is always careful to serve the husband properly, right? Especially back in the days, sometimes we see that the mother being afraid of the father, like that whether not to displease him, right? But of course, that fear of the wife is not like an unhealthy fear, like the husband is going to beat him. It's not like that, it's just out of respect and love that you want to please the husband. And there is some fear over there. So that is in the Aishwarya Bhava. And in the previous verses also, we have seen the demigods fearful of the Lord Vishnu. But again, the demigods are not demons. I mean, they're not afraid of Lord Vishnu the way demons are afraid. But they are afraid in the sense that, they are given the responsibility, they are given a task by Lord Vishnu to perform their duties properly. So, and they want to please the Lord, they want to please Lord Vishnu, right? And in that way, they are also a little bit, afraid, so that they want to do their duties properly. And ultimately, the one more way of looking at it is that, see, there are two things. There is Purusha and there is Prakriti. The entire material creation is Prakriti. And the Lord is the Purusha, right? It's a feminine and masculine. And the entire Prakriti is a feminine feature which is meant to serve the Lord, which is there to assist the Lord in his pastimes, right? So in that way also, analogy can be given to the husband and wife. So over there, that fear is can be compared to that, right? So in this way also, this is a concluding verse of today's chapter, which describes the effect, the time and fear in the previous verses. And in this way, this fear can also be relevant to devotees' lives. How? By being careful and being fearful of Maya, and not becoming relaxed in our practice of devotional service, and becoming more and more serious in our Krishna consciousness. We can also use fear in our in our life as well, right? So thank you. I like to end my class there. Any comments or questions? Shyamcandra.
In the material world, we have, demons who are, some of them come from the spiritual world. Most of them actually, Krishna came just to kill them. So here is explained that in spiritual world, they're also it's explained like demons, but they're like unconscious, and they have, what's said? They have like material, expression or something like that.
So basically, what Jiva Goswami says here is that they are mechanical replicas. They're not like actual demons. Like
so I was just wondering, is it some connection between these two, demon in material world, who is like a real, in that point of time, he will be destroyed.
Of course.
And that one in spiritual world, they're like same.
Yeah, that is what it looks like. From this explanation, that's what it looks like. Like Putana, Trinavrata and all those demons. So those are eternal pastimes of Krishna. So from this explanation, it looks like they do exist because that's in Nitya Leela of Krishna. Yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions? Otherwise we can end here. Nādir Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.